Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 32 of Fabrically Speaking Live. I'm your host, Clare Rowley, and today we're going to finish up what we started last week. For those of you who were with me last week, give me a thumbs up if you started the project. And if you haven't, don't feel bad. I know life gets in the way. Hi, Tina from Texas. And I have a chat closer so I can read it. Lorinda from Hood River, Oregon. Hi, you guys. And Kat Davison, hi, from Tennessee. You're new to the group, I think. So I don't know what's going on with this camera. Looks like I'm blurry again this week. I don't know if it has to do with the thunderstorm that we're having right now. It just started thundering. Used to be that the monsoon kicked in around 3, but now it's kicking in around 2. So I feel like saying good morning, everybody. I would have already had a book cover made had I not decided to work on my little featherweight. And I got it sewing, but it really needs a new hook and a new bobbin case, because whoever used or owned this machine before I did really put it through its paces. It had needle marks all over the bobbin case. And hello, Ernestine from New York City and Francis from Meach, Pennsylvania. You know what that's, even though that's closer, I still can't read it. Okay, so last week I inked this with everybody. And I kind of added a little bit to it. It's going to be really exciting what I'm going to tell you guys today. For those of you who didn't try this just yet. So this is what I did last week. And this week I decided to, this is going to be the back of the cover. This will be the front of the cover. And while I was getting ready to ink this fabric, wow, I got my phone too loud in my ear. Okay. So the process of inking, we wet the fabric first, and then we start to put ink on it, which you can watch from last week. And what I did this week was, or this morning, is I wet this and then I put this down on it. And this is the pattern that I was kind of using to reference to drop the ink down, which you can print out on our YouTube channel. It's also in the link in the description below this video. After this video ends, you'll see a little arrow like this, and it says see more or learn more, and that's where you'll find all the links to everything. So when I put this down on it, I picked it up and some of the ink was on the fabric. So I thought, well, if I want to do that, can I do that and actually intend to do that? And I was able to transfer the design. I filmed it. It's going to be a video that is recorded. So if you guys want to be able to do any of my art and you can print out on a piece of paper, then you wet your fabric and then lay the pattern on top and then wet this. And then you just kind of rub it and then iron through with a pressing cloth or something over the top. Something that's not absorbent would be better, because I used something that was absorbent. The ink went into that as well. But if I had used like wax paper, then it would have pushed all of the ink into the fabric. And honestly, it's just like, you have ink. It's there. You don't have to trace. It's ready for you to just ink a little bit. And then I don't know, I didn't test if the inkjet ink stays, but I've heard that if you heat set it, it does in fact stay. So if you look, I don't know if you can see well enough, but there's lines in there, and those lines I did not draw. They came off of the paper. That's pretty good. So that's without having to trace, without having to use the Caterpillar, and instantly, I mean, it's within a few seconds, except for what you end up with is a polar opposite. So the design is facing the opposite direction, which can be confusing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys the opposite of this. I'm going to flip it for you so that you have a reverse to reference as well, should you want to do this design, which I find very fun to do. You have everything already? You're a lurker? I know there's a lot of you lurking in the background, and I understand. I don't mind. I'm glad that you're joining us today. Okay, so I really feel like I should have a bigger notebook so I can use more of what I inked to cover the actual notebook, but I can always do another one, can't I? I got batting floating through the air, as usual. Ideas are starting to roll, Francis. Woohoo. So, I inked the whole piece of fabric, and I really was going to ink this as well so that I could have the inside inked. Or is this batting? I can see it in my eyes, and it's tickling me. So, but here's the thing. Even if you construct this first, you can ink it after. It's not required that you do it before. So we'll see what I have left after I cut it to size. And I really didn't get to sew it first, but you know how many book covers I've made in my lifetime? Usually I make a book cover that sticks and is glued on to the book. But what I want is I want to be able to, once I fill up a journal, slide another journal in and not have to make another book cover for every journal. And wouldn't this be a great thing to sell on Etsy if you guys are into that? Hand painted, one of a kind book covers. So cool. See if anyone new has come in. Okay, so it is the most beautiful thing in the summer here in Arizona. If we have a good monsoon, everything turns green, and I'm having allergies today. So is Tinkerbell. We've been sneezing. So it's gorgeous up here, all green everywhere. For those of you who have not been to Arizona and don't know that, we actually can have all of our mountains and everything all green. It happens in the summer. When a lot of other states get, what was I going to say, dry in the summer, we don't. It's the opposite here. All right, so I'm trying to plan what I'm going to do, and I'm wishing I had a bigger notebook. Excuse me. I'm like, well, what if I made a notebook cover that had like you know how sometimes the pillows have like a ruffle, but not a ruffle? Kind of like a kind of ruffle. The stitch goes around and then you can still see. So maybe if I know some of you enjoy me designing on the go. So I'm like, well, maybe you guys wouldn't mind if I figure it out on live. Ooh. We could also make a cover for our ink pencils, and these will be coming in soon. By the way, we are very close to having the Lemire inks, which I added to this over last week's class. I added some of the Lemures to this side, and so it's a lot more intense than it was. And these little blue dots look like sequins, don't they? Which you could do. You could take a sequin and you could peel off. I figured I don't have to sew this right away. I can embellish this for those of you who want to learn that. So you could take a sequin and you could stitch it onto your bag in different places to make it even more exciting. And I was going to show you a little more with the Octi-Hoops. And that is something that you can do with the Octi-Hoops. You can literally sew a sequin on, one sequin at a time, and strategically place them on a quilt and do it free motion. If you've ever wanted to do that, now you know that you can. I've never shown it, I don't think, live. I've shown it at shows before. So since I don't have enough inked fabric to do all the pieces, I have other fabrics that complement. But one of the things I find that when I do ink fabric is that the fabrics don't look like they fit. They have a different appearance than the inked area. So that's why I prefer to actually ink every piece. So if I was going to make, hold on one sec, I got to mute myself. Okay, so I find that if I have a outfit or something that I want to make, that I would ink the sleeve. So if I want the sleeves to be different, then you would draw out your sleeve and then ink it. And then that way, each of your pieces can be strategically inked according to what you want it to be. And instead of making the garment first and then going, well, where's the sleeve going to fall? And I want the bodice to be flattering. So I want the design to come down on an angle. So if you draw or trace out your design on your fabric first, then you ink, and then you can sew it together, and everyone will be like, wow, where did you get that? And you're like, it was like $3,000. You know, that's how much it cost. If you want one, I can make you one. See if anyone else has popped in. Okay. I tried to fix my screen setup so that I could read your posts in an easy way, but it failed. I got to remember how to do it. So I want you guys to vote. If I don't have enough fabric, what would you do? I want to know what you would do. And the more you interact in the live, the more the YouTube algorithm thinks you're having fun, and the more they will share our video with other people that don't know about us yet. So should I use some of these fabrics, or should I just use the same fabric and ink it afterward? What would you do? Because remember, this will be a book cover that you can take the notebook out of and put it back in. I can do another inking project, so I'm just really going to get over the fact that it's going to be cut off. That doesn't look very pretty, does it? So I really do like this green, and I really like this purple. Believe it or not, I have a purple I like. I think it goes really nicely with some of the purple tones that I put in the inking. But do I want to see that strong purple when I open the notebook and I write? Well, this will be covered when the pages go over. So really, is it really that important? Probably not. And then I have this, which I have been very fond of this season, this summer season. And it has some of those tones in it. You would ink later? I really want to ink later. But I do like these fabrics. They go really cool together. That's probably why I chose those colors. All right. So what I'm going to do also, though, is I'm going to do some embellishment. And I want to do it free motion. These sequins are pretty small. If I were to try to sew these on by machine, I would probably have difficulty. So I'm going to go with a larger sequin. And I'm only going to maybe put 2 or 3 on here, primarily just so I can teach you guys how to free motion hand sew a sequin on. And then I was thinking about piping, putting piping around the sides, or possibly putting beads around the edge, and maybe adding a little lace, because we can do anything, can't we? And here I am again, overwhelmed by all the choices that we have in using the Creative Feet products. So, I know where they are. Let's... Tinkerbell. This is a yarn that I found interesting, and we could actually put that on the outer perimeter of the notebook, but we can actually sew this notebook like a pillow, and we just need to insert a pocket inside. Have any of you made these types of things before and are sitting there going, I know how you should do it? If I could just talk to you while you're live. It's a lot easier just to glue it on because you don't have to think. Just take it and go around, and should you want to have a notebook that maybe has a cover that's permanent and the inside inserts, then that would be a much easier construction to glue it. And then you take a cardboard and you wrap fabric around your cardboard, and then you lay it over the top, and that's how you can hold a notebook in. But in this case, I want this to be a reusable one. I know, Chase. I'm sorry, there's thunder. Do you need a hug? Do you need a hug? Okay. He's scared, you guys. You know, it's very scary when the thunder's loud right over our head. Hopefully we won't get shut down by the thunder. Oh, honey. He's shaking. Hey, baby. You can't be in my way. You can't be at my feet. You can lay down right next to me, though. You can lay there. Poor boy. All right, so I'm going to trace this out. And here's something that you need to think about. Oh, before I cut it, I should sew the sequin on. Chase, Amy says hi. All right, so how I sew sequins on is I use our liquid-based glue, and it needs to dry before you do it. So I'm gonna, there's static electricity, and they're not letting go. Okay. I know I have my tweezers. I found them today. They were right where they were supposed to be, but oh, there they are. Definitely easier to do with a tweezer. And it actually is kind of easier to take some and put it on something. You don't want a lot of glue beneath the sequin. And then you just kind of want to have it coated, and then figure out where you're going to place it, and think about the fact that my notebook is actually smaller than this overall. So I'm going to stick one here. Don't push really hard because you want that glue to stay in between the sequin and the fabric. And if you've ever wanted to sew sequins on something, whenever I do sew a string of sequins, I remove about 4 inches of the sequins. So it'll be something you'll have laying around. You'll have loose sequins laying around to use in this manner, should you want to. Another thing that you can do is you can apply or applique other fabrics on using the liquid-based glue. Free motion as well. It's really hard for me not to use the Octi-Hoops when I can. CBD oil for Chase. I actually have gummies for him. It's just it would be every day. If he gets really bad, I will run and get his gummy for him. Tinkerbell used to get really stressed out as well, except for now she can't hear that well. So the thunder doesn't seem to bother her. Every once in a while it will, but I think she's picking up on his fear more than actually hearing it herself. She's all totally chill in her chair. I've been very busy lately building my ClareRowley.com site. Right now it takes you to the school, but very soon it will take you to my art site. And I'm going to start releasing art videos. So if you're interested in learning how to paint, that is happening. Okay, so we don't need a lot of these, and odds are they'll, get caught on things if you put too many of them. You can also have applied them by putting a dab of this on the fabric and then lay the sequin on top and let it dry, and that will hold it, not as well as the thread will that I'm going to put on here. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4. That's enough to teach you. So what do you think? Piping around the edges too? So it's like a pillow with piping. And I'm going to use one of those pretty fabrics. But I could make my own piping fabric too, which is really cool. But I have no time. I don't have enough time to ink and do that. Wish I could see better. Well, I'm going to try to keep you guys busy. Especially if we're having to stay home more again. This would be so neat to have hang out and then you can bring it in as a bookmark. Wouldn't that be nice? So how can I do that? I could do a little braid. Oh, it reminds me of macrame. I could macrame it. It's okay. I never really can follow. So what happens, is that Kat or Kate? What happens, Kat, is I talk and then you guys don't hear me for almost a full minute. So by the time you guys make a comment, I have forgotten what I said. And so I don't even know if what you're saying is related to me or related to somebody else. You guys want me to teach you a really quick little macrame? You lose a lot of fabric when you macrame. I will start it, but I don't have to finish it. I can always finish the macrame later. But I'm going to show you how I use the sequins and ribbon foot to help me macrame. Because of its unique qualities, the sequins and ribbon foot holds on, and this is good because I need that glue to really dry on those sequins. Where's the feet? This was one of the projects on my Fabrically Speaking live show. So if you want to make these little cubbies, and there's more than one size. See how this one kind of sags, but this one stands up really well. This one has vinyl inside, and the vinyl is our cover up inside of creativefeet.com under the stabilizers link. There we go. This is the Sequins and Ribbon Foot. And its base holds on really tight and locks into the feed dogs on your sewing machine. Now I want to get this in the guide, but I'm not going to sew with it this time. I'm just going to have it hold on for me. Need to put my machine's ankle back on. Here's my little sea turtle. And Creative Feet come packaged as specials like this. This is our educational special, which teaches you 88 different things you can do with just our 3 feet. Hi, Pearl. Welcome to the group. And inside of this kit, there's a USB or flash drive with the book and video on it that teaches you all these different things. And each of the feet are over here. And then the adapters and extra guides for the sequin ribbon footer in the other area. Trying to find the foot. We also sell them separately, like this. But it's the sequins foot I'm trying to find. Here it is. We also have bobbins sold as sets under the Deco Bob name, which is fabulous. See what you find when you start digging in your drawer. Thunder's right here, you guys. I'm scared. So the sequins and ribbon foot comes with a 1/4 inch guide opening, as you see on the foot right here. And then you're going to find that you have different size trims, and or maybe you want to sew over 4, 5, 6, 8 layers of yarn all at once. Well, then you'd want to go with the bigger guide. And they then attach onto the same foot bottom. So you only need one bottom, and then you have 3 different guides. So in this case, I'm going to use this one because it's bigger. It'll hold this many yarns at the same time. So this is my machine's snap-on adapter. And I'm reattaching it to the machine as I take it off when doing free motion. Somebody asked me to come up with a way to store all our feet and our hoops. So I think I may do that for you guys, come up with a actual pattern that makes it easy to store everything. Maybe also add a place for all your needles to line up. What do you think? Or are you guys already really organized and don't need my help at all? So I'm starting out with 4 layers or rows, 4 strands, that's the word, of yarn. And I have a total of, let's see how long it is. There's 24 inches, about 26 inches to start. Now I still can't get all that yarn into that opening without first doing what? Do any of you remember? What do you do to get thicker things through the guide? You take a piece of thread and then you just lay the yarn over the thread. And then, sorry, I just jumped from the thunder. Ooh. This microphone hides the thunder from you guys. Take and slide that in. And then watch this, 4 strands going through that guide. So you could actually sew that thickness. This is what makes our foot outshine any of those free motion couching feet, because it's capable of doing so much more than that. Now this machine, when you stop, it drops the feed dogs, and I don't want my feed dogs down. I need them up for this. So do 1 stitch, and then that brings them up. So you want to make sure your feed dogs are up, and then put it down like that. And now make sure that the yarn is beneath the foot. And now it holds on to anything that you have. So you can macrame. And macrame is done, well, there's lots of different macrame. I did this for a living when I was a young girl. I was talking to somebody on the phone. Was it? Or my friend, an artist friend of mine. We both did macrame for a period of time. And so it's on my mind. Oh, could even have, since there's a sequin on the top, could actually have a row of sequins in there. I think that'll just be hidden too much by the yarn. So the next thing you need to do is you need to get something to hold on to the 2 strands that go down the middle. And when I was younger, I used to just like bite it. But another thing that you can do is use the clip-it clips, because they're really big, and you just want to get it attached to something, sometimes yourself. And then you can lean back when you want to tighten it and move forward when you want it looser. Let's see. I have this light. If I can attach it to this. I'll just kind of wrap it around that clip a couple times. A safety pin on your shirt is another option. Okay. So that's holding it, but not very tight. And of course I'm always working with all these things in front of me that you guys can't necessarily see. So now we have these 2 strands on the other sides. And you make a sailboat. Ooh. Okay, I think the mic's okay now. You make a sail, or the number 4. Then you take the other strand and go under or beneath and then come up. You can hold your finger there and just pull that up. And now you have, kind of reminds me of playing string in school, like cat's claw. And then you just kind of slide. And you don't pull it taut. Now you can pull it tight. And do the same one. And this is how we secure the beginning. The first knot is the same exact direction. Okay, so that'll be the first knot. All right, so now we pretend we didn't do that one. And you do it again. Up and under. And we could actually stop right here and have this little loop, and you could put a bead on that, on those 2 strands in the middle, and have strings of beads. This is such a fun craft if you haven't done this before. Now, I dropped down about a 1/2 inch, and this way it won't take as long for me to do this since we're live. Thunder! So the opposite side. And then gently pull it. And what makes macrame look good versus not look good is consistency on how tight you pull. Left, sail, slide it up. And I'm gonna do 4 close together. Right sail, over, up, and now these 4 stitches are going to be right next to each other. Which one did I do? it was easy, so it must have been the other one. So now we go right. And if I didn't do it right, well, it's going to show, but oh well. What is it that you guys say? We can't always be perfect. Perfect isn't fun. Okay, now left. So I'm going to do 4 stitches close, and then I go a 1/2 inch away, and then 4 stitches close, and then go a 1/2 inch away. And as I'm talking and doing this, I can't remember what I'm doing. This is also bulky yarn, so sometimes it's thicker than other times. So it will kind of appear like I didn't make the knots the same size whenever one of these big knobs get there. So if you got beads, and you can really make a cool left. So if you say it out loud, it's less likely you'll forget which one you're on. The koi fish piece behind me is being edited now. And as part of being a part of the VIP group, you'll have access to the entire video. It's 12 hours of actual inking that I did on that. And I have shown it quite a bit on our site. I actually stitched through it on one of them. Now it's not just thunder, now we have hail. Oh, hail. All right, over, left. And right. I'm speeding up because when it sounds like it does right now out there, we frequently have our power go out. You could also just braid if that's easier for you. So last week, Francis, if you haven't seen me ink yet, I inked last week, so you can kind of see the process that I used to make the koi fish. Of course, actually doing the koi fish versus what I did last week is much more complex because the design is more challenging. However, I am going to have like some fish in there. If I didn't do it already, did I do it? I don't think I did it yet. I'm also going to be offering my art on fabric for you guys to buy so that you can just ink or just stitch on my art. I know I'm not doing this right because one string's getting shorter than the other. And that's not because I don't know what I'm doing, but it's because I'm teaching and talking. Amy, it's okay to sound like a stalker. I depend on you to know what's going on. Amy's got it down because she's here every week. I don't think you've missed one, have you? It's 32. It's a lot. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Well, that glue is definitely dry. I don't remember which one I did. Right. And left. So having my fabric already inked, is that what you think sounds great, Pearl? Not all of you are interested in learning how to draw or ink. You're more interested in just using your sewing machines. Boy, this brings back memories. I used to make hammocks and wall art. I actually did it for a company. I really like this knobby yarn used for it though. So now you know your sequins and ribbon foot is a third hand. Should there be anything that you need to do and you wish there was someone in the room that could hold it for you, your sequins and ribbon foot can hold it for you so well that I could actually pull the sewing machine around by tugging on this yarn. It's much easier if the yarn, 2 strands going down the middle are straight. I think I'm going to stop there. It's not a very big book after all. Oh, thunder. Be cool to end with a bead, but I don't have any in here right now. I do own beads, but I just don't have one ready. Because as usual, I didn't plan on doing this. Where'd it go? Now we swap out like that. So we live in Prescott, or I live in Prescott area, and we have an area called the Granite Dells. And yesterday, and we have a lot of new people that have moved here over the last 6 months or so. And they're on our Facebook groups. Everyone's freaking out about how much it's raining. And the Granite Dells yesterday had waterfall, so they're big boulders, and there were waterfalls all over the Granite Dells because it was raining so much. It was quite something. And so that's probably going to repeat. The heavens is opened up, you guys. I've lived here for almost 30 years. Can't believe it already. Okay, so that's enough. I'm going to leave my end not done so I can decide what I want to do. And then I just take the foot off and pull the yarn back out, and I have this ready to be stitched into the cover. So I'm going to have this be stitched into the cover and have it hang out, and that way I can just drop it in when I want to lock it on a page. And I'm going to get the Octi-Hoops ready now. I'm not used to, I don't usually tell you what I'm about to do nonstop like this. Yeah, I lost track of time as well, Fiona. Oh, Fiona, hi. What time is it right now in Australia? And she's about to have a birthday. It's her 50th, I think you said. Am I right? I hope I'm right. Ah. That was a really long thunder. Yeah, I mean, pretty much for the majority of the years I lived here, it was like this every summer. And then the last 5 years has been pretty dry, and so people who've lived here 5 years are like, this is unusual. I'm like, it was unusual to not have the rain. But so that's going to add some nice interest. Whoops, wrong one. And it has that aqua color in it to tie it in. So we're building a book, and we had no idea what I was going to do before I started. To use the Octi-Hoops, you can use a foot or not. And in this case, I'm going to remove the foot because it's easier to sew sequins without a foot. Unless you're using the sequins and ribbon foot and sewing them on a string, like this, then the sequins and ribbon foot makes sewing sequins really easy. So I'm removing my machine's snap-on adapter. 50th on the 28th. Well, try to remember so we can wish you a happy birthday. So many of you guys now, though. And I'm going to be using 2 frames at the same time. a 9014 super universal needle on the machine, and this needle has the same tip as a universal. Pretty much its anatomy is almost identical to a universal needle. And the universal needle doesn't have the coloring. See, the coloring on the super universal is darker. It has a coating all over it that makes it makes it slippery so that it doesn't stick to things like ink. And we did ink this fabric. Another thing it has this little drop down in front of the eye of the needle, which makes thread have an easier time going into the eye of the needle. You'll find them at creativefeet.com if you've never heard of them before. It is the best needle for free motion quilting. I feel so relaxed today. I never thought I'd say that my live show is more relaxing than having some work to do, but it is. So you see the little sequins scattered around? And that one's not a sequin, that's the ink, but see how it is very reflective like that. If I were to try to sew a sequin on with that ink right there, then my needle would stick and I would probably break a needle. So that's why I didn't place any sequins on the actual ink. I placed them near it so that it adds interest. This is my red velvet. I made one this week. Isn't that cool? So I made this for a customer, but it's not perfect wood. So that's why I end up with so many different colors. If you're not familiar with my wooden pressers, they come in a variety of different colors. That's green hornet, I think. No, that's blue hornet. This is tiger. This is green hornet. And there's so many more. I'm only telling you because it was in my way. So here we go. We're going to use the Octi-Hoops with one frame beneath. So it's going to go underneath the quilt so I can't see it. Then we take the smaller frame and it's going to sit on top of the actual quilt. It's better to have the frame be completely on the actual quilt rather than have it hang off like it was. However, I have been able to quilt all the way to the edge, and I have quilted with my fabric this like that and still been able to quilt all the way in this area. You'll get better if you keep trying it. If you give up, then you won't get good at it. Now I'm going to stitch in the hole of that sequin. See if I can light it better. Why is that doing that? It's like the camera is getting darker. Do you see that happening, or is it just me? It shouldn't be doing that. The camera's being weird. Very strange. Oh well. Okie dokie, what am I doing? I was trying to tell my sister what I was saying that my mom used to say, and it's okie dokie. I'm choosing my thread right now. It's a great idea to use a thin thread for this. So I would recommend the Invisifil or the Deco Bob thread for this because the hole in the sequin is relatively small. The needle is also going to be in that hole. It's kind of like sewing on a button, and so a thinner needle would be better, but not too thin, because if the needle hits that sequin, it'll break, and that's no fun. This is the PolyFast. That's a 40 weight. Here's an Invisifil. And this thread is dreamy. And I believe I already have a bobbin of it, but you know what? It really doesn't matter that it's the same bobbin, just that it's similar in color. So I'm going to check it out and see what I've got in here. Invisifil is also fabulous for quilting when you're learning, especially because it is so thin it doesn't show up as much. So you're not going to see your oops or your mistakes as much. This is what I do to keep my bobbins from unwrapping. So I take my finger and I'm going to try to get the thread to drop along the edge of that bobbin. So as I try to do it so that I have a short tail as well, just kind of pull down a little bit so that it kind of drops over to the side of the bobbin. I don't know if you can see that. And now it won't just unravel. And then when you want to pull it back out again, you just pull it out and it comes right out again. Rather than tape or any of these other holders that you may end up losing. It's a very easy way of keeping your threads from unwrapping on you. Where are my bobbin boxes? Oh, right in front of me. These are my bobbin boxes, and I have them grouped according to thread type. This is my Invisifil bobbin case. And this is a bobbin of that thread. So I'm all ready to go with the exact same thread. I got batting in the air again, tickling my nose. Whoops. This is 100 weight thread, 60% thinner than 40 weight thread. If you have trouble with using it in the bobbin on a computerized machine, some of the computerized machines have issue with this thread because it's so thin, because they use like a camera to see the thread to tell your machine when the bobbin is running out. And so if your machine keeps telling you that the bobbin is running out, then you may prefer the Deco Bob in its 80 weight, still considerably thinner than the 40 weight thread. And it comes in, I think, 30 colors. And so there's definitely going to be a color that's close to this color, but not quite as thin. And still, you're not going to have to wind bobbins as much. And also, we do have it sold on bobbins that are already wound, in addition to cones of it, so you can actually match the thread in your needle and the bobbin, as well as wind your own bobbins if you don't mind winding your own bobbins. I'll tell you what, I didn't used to be this organized, Amy. But it's such a gift to yourself. So you can do the same thing with the cone. As you get close to the base of the cone, you just kind of hold tight and go like that, and then it's held in there. So once again, it's not going to unwrap on you until you're ready to unwrap it, and then you just pull and it comes out. All right. Every once in a while I'm quiet. And that's literally like all the time. Even when I'm alone. I'm never really alone with my dogs. In fact, if I am quiet, they kind of look at me funny like, why are you so quiet? Okay, this takes bravery and practice as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my bobbin thread up through the hole. Maybe not. I'm just going to let the bobbin thread be on the back. I mean, you have to be able to sew a stitch. So if it doesn't sew a stitch, then you have to bring your bobbin up. Straight stitch, and then bring your needle down right through the hole in that sequin. Make sure your foot is lowered. Holding onto that needle thread, bring it up. Pull it out. Come on. And this bobbin thread is super short. Can't see, so I'm putting on my glasses. And the 100-weight thread is so hard to see. Well, I can't. It didn't come up because I used the scissors. So I'm going to pull this bobbin thread out and make it longer. Come on, where are you? Always turn your handle toward you. And then it doesn't hurt to hold on to that sequin as you bring it back up. Now pull the bobbin thread up. Go back through the hole again. It's insane. I know that some of you are probably going, that's crazy. There's no way I'm doing that. I'm so far from it, so we'll see how well I do. I think there's no way. I have to get closer. So what I'm doing is I'm going to make sure that I can rest my body down on the table. I can see that I'm going in and out of focus. That's the thunderstorm affecting our internet here. So you need to hear me, but this is like right in my way, and I got to be able to see, and even with these, I still need to not have something blocking my view. Make sure you're comfortable as well when you do this. And I'm wearing high-powered magnifying glasses to see better. Much better. Now I can see. But I'm not used to wearing glasses this strong. So now I just went out. Now I'm coming back in. And then I come out and go back in. Now I'm going to cut those two threads. But like if you wanted to create some really cool art, you could leave these threads and you could like string some beads on there. There's so much you can do with these. Okay, so basically I'm making an X. And what I'm doing is I'm holding these two frames together, and that's what then holds the fabric down and why I don't need a foot. Still so far away from it, so the fact that I'm able to do this is only because I have these glasses. Well, that time I hit the sequin. But this is a plastic sequin, so it's not going to be that big a deal. So I'm going to repeat that because I don't want this to fall off. Make it stronger, and I'll let you guys see this really close up. You could also now stitch around the sequin. And I'm going to bring the hoops closer, maybe you can see better. My hands are in the way. Light's in the way. All right, so I'm going to try to do this, and basically what I'm seeing is the dark. Trying to get close to the sequin itself. And it's sticking a little bit because some of this color, this sticky paint or ink, is behind that. And I'm doing that because you got to tie a knot. So, and now I don't need to cut my bobbin thread, cut the needle thread, but we do so with by raising the foot and pull out a little bit and cut that needle thread. And now I can hop over to the next sequin. And I don't have to bring the bobbin thread up because the bobbin thread is now a long tail running along the length of that. Scooting the bottom frame up. Wish I could find this fuzzy thing that's tickling my nose. It's amazing how hard it is to see it. It's that bamboo filament. Okay, so a couple in the hole to tie a knot. Go out, come back into the hole, and out. And you see how long I wait to tie the knot or cut the thread, and it's because I want to make sure that this thread doesn't come off and then the sequin is released no matter how many stitches you do. Once I really get going on this and I'm not live and I can get close enough to my machine so I can see better, I can really get these stitched down quickly. So I'm going around. And know that I'm not pushing down on the fabric. I'm bringing the frames together. And this is what I'm steering with and why I'm able to be so accurate on that. So I have 4 to do. Almost done. Only have 2 more to go. Slide it up. And if this is closer to the frame, then the frame holds the fabric better. And since I used ink that's sticky, and I'm on top of sticky ink, this one will probably be the most challenging. I said I didn't do that, but I apparently did. Oh, that was not bad at all. Okay, so we'll do a couple stitches, and I'm moving just a smidge so it actually does stitch in a different spot. If you tie a knot and you do so by bringing your needle back in the same hole every time, you're basically skipping stitches and not really tying a knot. So some of the sewing machines have a knot stitch, and the knot stitch doesn't move the fabric, and it really doesn't work well. Yikes, hit that sequin. Okay, gotta cut that thread. Are any of you thinking, I'm going to try this? Or are you all going, there's no way I'm going to try that? This would be a time that if you used a metal sequin, that I would have broke a needle. So just remember, you don't want a metal sequin when sewing them on this way. Unless you use a leather needle. Oh, I did 5 sequins, so I'm gonna check. Feel free to ask questions, you guys. Yeah, if you're left-handed, it definitely is better if you have an extension table out. And by the way, as soon as the parts come in for that featherweight, I'm going to be doing some stitching using the featherweight on the set, and I may paint the machine whether or not you guys want me to or not. I probably won't paint the Singer featherweight machine completely covered like I do with these because it's a cherished machine, and I may even do it in such a way that I can wipe the paint off later. So try not to get upset with me if I do paint that sewing machine. I'll let you guys vote. Paint or no paint on my featherweight machine. Come on, I'm Clare Rowley. I always have a painted machine. If I don't do something on that featherweight, then, you know, I guess they'd still know it's me if I have painted sewing machines on the set. But who's sticking their tongue out? Are any of you going to try it? Come on. It's so fun. So, you know how you see hand beading on wedding dresses? And they have little seed beads and sequins? You can do it by machine. And string beads on your thread. And then you stitch, stitch, stitch. And then you pull it down and you bring it up in another area. And you can create what looks exactly like hand beading by machine. So, in order to be ready for that, you need to try just the sequin by itself. But you can also put them on with a bead as well. No paint on the featherweight. Come on, how many of you, anyone say I should do paint on the featherweight? Come on, somebody vote for me. All right, lower the foot. If you don't lower your foot, you don't have tension. And then you'll have big nasty threads underneath. Out. And in. And I talk to myself on purpose. If I don't talk, I can sew it faster. But then I'm boring. Two times. And then tie or cut the thread. If you're lurking and you don't know, I have a school. It's a free online school, Create with Clare Rowley, found at create.clarerowley.com. Be sure to join. Another thing you could do is just quilt over. So if you were actually quilting at this time, you could quilt and sew a sequin on, quilt and sew a sequin on. But see how well that the liquid based held the sequins on? Remember, I'm pulling over, so my bobbin is pulling over. So we have long tails beneath that we need to cut off after. It's faster than pulling up the bobbin thread every time. Oh, this is in the way. Sorry, I'm trying something with my mouse. Where's my mouse? Where are you? There you are. Screenshot? I think it took a screenshot of that. Trying to see if I can do some photography like that without having to do it afterward, because I miss out on some of it. So I can add this into the school. Oh, I've got so much clutter as usual. There, without me in it. Okay. The last one. Now here's the thing, I didn't quilt the other side. I didn't hit the center, so now I have the sequin up. But now I pull down and it kind of holds it down, and I'm going to do it by hand. So if you have that happen, you just do it by hand for a minute. Come over and do one X on it. Always turning the handle toward you. And then no one knows that you made a mistake. And no, I did all of that with the feed dogs up. You can lower them if you like, but you don't need to. So would you guys like me to quilt just a little bit on the other side, which will be the back of my bag or my book cover? I'm sure people that weren't here last week would like me to. There we go. What did Lorinda say? I want to know. Yeah, and here's the thing. Like I said, I can paint my machine and not have it be permanent. If that comforts you guys. So I'm going to cut these long bobbin threads so they don't get caught on anything. And the whole time I quilted this, there was something stuck on my needle thread, which was causing it to pull. So the fact that I was able to quilt, even though my thread was being pulled on, is something else, but this would have looked a lot cleaner had I not had that going on. See how wet I got it? And that is the batting. So the neat thing about this technique is that you outline your design using a dark color, and in essence you doodle on your fabric. But I cannot do it. I can just have this be the back and not be drawn. What do you guys say? Paint it. Red Dog Mama, thank you. Did you come? Were you lurking? Were you lurking and then you just popped in just to support me and say to paint the featherweight? It's been a while since I saw you on the live. I could always tell you it's not permanent. You wouldn't know the difference. So should I outline this with dark thread or should I not? Because I don't get another chance to do it. Once we sew this, the back isn't going to be quilted or stitched. I really don't care. I can make another one. None of you are saying? Do you want me to do the outline? So see how this has stitching and then this doesn't? Because I haven't outlined it yet. Outline or not? What time is it? 3:16. I'm supposed to stop at 4. So I'm just gonna anchor quilt this. I'm just gonna outline it with the light color. Show you an option. This is the hoop beneath, then the quilt lays over the top, then this goes inside. If you're left-handed, it goes over here, and you draw with this, and then you hold the frames together with this hand. And see how that just makes them move together just by bringing one corner into the corner of the other. And it doesn't require squeezing really hard, because once you bring something together, you can't bring it any more together than it is unless it's squishy. So this is a hard object. When you bring two things that are solid together, they can't then be squished. So that makes it move because of the angle and the area in which there is a connection being offset like that makes them able to be spun around, and that eliminates the need for clamps and screws and stretching your fabric. So this one goes underneath. This goes on top. I'm going to stitch it so the cover, remember this is fine. I can accept the fact that I'm not quilting this, although it doesn't sound like I'm happy. Making sure I didn't damage the tip of that needle, and I think I did, that sequin. You don't want to use a bad needle and quilt. I always start from left to right. If this needle were barely used and I didn't hit a sequin, I would stick it back in. If I were going to then do something different, that wouldn't need this needle. This will be a book cover that you can wash, which is kind of nice. And that's why I am taking the time to quilt this side a little bit. I just was going to get this done before you guys came on, but I started servicing that featherweight. Oh, come on, thread. Fine, I'll thread you by hand. And the reason I was able to service the featherweight is because I got these glasses. So I was having a really hard time seeing. I'm like, when I was young, I could service sewing machines without any trouble at all. So getting a magnifying, really, these are higher power than the ones I normally use. And I was like, I think I can see the damage on the hook, if there is. And there was. Okay, so bring up the bobbin thread. I don't think it's up. It's so small. These are the applique tweezers that we offer at Creative Feet. And they are for the physically challenged. So that little groove that you see on both sides actually makes it easier to hold without you having to squeeze. And these are so true that I was able to grab that 100-weight thread, even though it was only sticking up about 1/8 of an inch. So now I'm just going to trace along the outside of anything that I can identify as a shape. Slide and scoot. And now I can cut that, the starting tails. And I'm not looking where I'm at, I'm looking like down there, and I'm going to head in that direction. Elbows down, shoulders relaxed. But because the thread is a light color, you're not going to be able to see the stitching that much, but it will become more stable in the wash. Should I want to wash it? With bamboo batting, and that is what I'm using, you don't need to stitch as much as you do with cotton and wool and any other batting that falls apart easily. Bamboo also has a high level of static cling, which is why this is just held on by static cling. So this is, if you pull this apart, you can see there's nothing holding the batting and the fabric together. Isn't that kind of cool? You could ink your batting. I'm not sure what we'd do with that, but it's kind of nice knowing that you can do it. One day I'll probably come up with something. So I'm going to spin this around because it'll be easier for me to see it. And I can get the hoops closer to the edge. Ignore the needle. Look where you're going and drive there. Or draw there. Slide, slide. And if you didn't have our hoops, you would be stopping and lifting up your hands and moving over. It's really not that much more that you're doing. Once you get the hang of moving these frames, it becomes unconscious. It's just really simple to just slide them over. And I have a leaf here that's very faint because I was going to use thread to enhance it. And slide, slide. I'm going to go in here and anchor it a little bit in the middle. It's also a good way to practice going around designs is to use a thread that doesn't show up much. I'm going to drop the feed dogs because they were making a more tapping on the fabric. And this is super relaxing once you stop worrying about what you do. In the beginning, you're more likely to be self-conscious about your work, and that's why it's good to do these little projects first before you go onto a quilt. Something that only you're going to see, so it doesn't really matter. Unless you share in the school, which is great. If you share in the school, then others won't be as shy, and they'll share as well. I forgot. No, I do have the right bobbin thread. So this is just the holes that the needle is making that's making this darker. I guess this will be a video that goes more than 2 hours. So you can go around and make circles. It's the back of my book. It doesn't matter. You can use a foot if you're insecure about using no foot. Or if your machine goes, I need a foot, it's probably because you told it you're quilting. So don't tell your machine what you're doing. It's none of it's business. Just leave it on straight stitch and it will let you sew like this. Doesn't that look cool? So two totally different looks using the same basic technique, using dark thread versus light thread, using more subtle colors versus the other one is more intense colors. But the same process. So if you watch the inking from last week, you'll be ready to try this. You don't have to stitch it all. It's art. Nobody knows what your intention was before you began. The idea is to not have to stop and tie knots, to just kind of work your way around. Uh-oh. I just heard something. I don't know if we lost connection. Did we lose the internet for a minute? It just had a warning, so I don't know if we lost power or the internet for a minute. But if we did, it seems like we're still streaming. I don't know. The storm seems to have passed, though. Kind of startled me. There has been like a bell like ringing, like somebody left their phone here, and I keep hearing like a ding, but it's not near me. I don't know if anyone left their phone here. I'm not watching the needle, and it moves around anyway. You cannot focus on it if you tried. So just kind of look ahead of you, then the fabric's not really moving where you're headed. And if you say out loud, I'm drawing, then your hand is more likely to drop into the drawing position rather than being in this position. I still have so much in front of me. It's so hard not to quilt the whole thing. It's all right. It's all right, Claire. It's just the back. It's not like anybody cares. Different ways of quilting. So that's just like swooping. And then I'm going to go ahead and I am going to do some circles, but not as small as I normally would. And this is kind of like shorthand, shorthand quilting. Moving around the quilt faster rather than what I did last week, which was a lot more detailed. Okay, here we go. A leaf. We'll do it just like the outline of the leaf. And I'm totally relaxed and feels so good to do this. One of my favorite and most relaxing things that I do artistically. There's no cleanup, like if you're inking. It's just doodling, kind of tracing what's already there. If you don't hit it, it doesn't matter because It's not really an outline, it's just a light color thread. Slide over, slide over. Okay, back to the sunflower. And this is really heavily inked because I was really unhappy with this flower. Which is fine, which is why I was like, do one. If you don't like it, it'll be the back and no one will see it. But I think this is a much nicer cover than the notebook. And I have some really pretty notebooks my daughter bought me, and I hesitate to use them because the cover is part of the notebook and it'll be, you know, no longer able to be moved. So like the only thing I want to do with those pretty notebooks is something like poetry or journaling, something that I'm going to keep. So this is more for my notes about what I need to do to keep you guys entertained. Do any of you journal? How about doodling, coloring in coloring books? Do you guys color? I expect you guys to respond. Only the lurkers don't respond. Once you've signed into the chat, you gotta type a little bit. Okay, so now I'm coming out of this and almost done with the stitching I'm going to do today with this. And I know that that cover will have a more cohesive look than not stitching at all. Remember, unless I stitch, the only thing holding the fabric and the batting together is static cling. And you'll see sometimes I barely even hold on to the handle. I just kind of do that. So if you have arthritis or if you've got injuries to your fingers, however you've adapted to hold on to a pen, you can do that. You don't have to hold it like that. You can hold it in other ways. Just don't push down against it like you would with a pen. It just floats. It's a floating kind of thing. Now I inked this whole fabric, but I did so with the intention of not using it all. All right, let's see. I should quilt a little bit here. This is part 2 of a 2-part series, but I'm kind of going and doing a little bit of more than I expected, which is not unusual for me. So this is me, totally relaxed because I've done this a lot. Scooting as I go. This is where the spine of the book will be. So I kind of want it to be secure. I think I'm almost done, yeah. Okay. And I will tie off and then show you. So the holes actually kind of make it look darker than it really is. And I think over time, if you move the fabric around a bit, that those holes will not be as visible. And that's primarily because this ink that we sewed over. But that's a lot less intimidating than going with the dark color that I used last week. So if you're just starting out using a lighter color, and you could plan and you could use dark ink, or you could use actually markers. You could take a Sharpie marker and outline with it, and then just stitch with a color that you don't see, or even use our invisible thread that we offer. And the invisible thread is something that we use to sew beads and sequins on as well. So it has a lot of uses for it. All right, enough quilting. So hard for me to stop. I'm addicted to my Octi-Hoops. And I'm not just saying that because I want you to buy them. I just absolutely love playing with them. Coffee, that sounds good. Can you get me a cup? Actually, I think I'll have a little my vitamin C water, and I'm going to mute while I do so you don't have to hear me slurp. Now I double check when I unmute so that I never have you guys go, "We can't hear you," again. Trying to be perfect. I don't know if it's something we can ever achieve. I have this drawer that never stays shut, and I have this poster tack, and it usually keeps it shut, but it's covered in thread, and the thread's not letting it stick. There we go. I'll show you what it looks like. This is blobby stuff, and it's kind of like Play-Doh. And I use it also to put on the back of my needles like this, and then you can stick it on your machine in different places so it won't fall off. You can stick it on the higher places too, like up here, and it will hold it in place for you, so you don't lose your pack of needles. But it also is great for keeping your drawers closed, as long as you don't get thread all over it. It's so funny because no matter what I do, this drawer is always opened. No matter how we adjust the legs or the wheels. So this is going to be my doodle notebook, maybe. All right, time to figure out how to build this thing. This will be the inside of the book, and I can ink it later. But we need a way to like slide the cover in, so we need pockets on both sides, right? So if I cut this in half, see, the problem is that I have this terrible looking backside. If you quilted with this, you still would have to finish the outside edge. So this is why I did it this way, so that I could make it like a pillow. You guys have gotten to see me design how many things live. So I'm like, I don't know what I look like when I'm thinking this through. This is the front of the cover. And you got to think it through. So it's upside down, right? Yeah. I didn't lay this out very well. Oh, I remember why I did this. So this area up here, I was thinking I would cut off, and it would be the pockets on the inside. And this is going to be stitched in. So I'm keeping this close so I don't forget that I have plans for it. And this is the front, so it's going to go like that. And you need to add a little gap so that the fabric can bend over the book. Otherwise you won't be able to close your book. The fabric will pull it open. How do I know that? Because I've done it before as a young artist. So I'm going to really flatten this out so that I get a true measurement. What part am I going to cut off? I'm going to use the markers that we can wash away or iron away. Any kind of a temporary marker. Thanks, Amy. I look like any artist that's working on something. And this is the actual size of the cover, so we need to think ahead and go, okay, we're going to need to add a 1/4 inch seam allowance to this. What do we have for that? Do we have a really cool tool for adding a 1/4? Do you guys remember if I have something really neat for adding a 1/4? Try not to move things. So by squishing and pushing down on the book, we have added the gap that we need. So if I trace like this, and then I went like that, and I traced again, see how there's room here? That's how much added by squishing and making the book flat. So now I'm going to get out my add a 1/4 ruler. And move this ironing pad, which is why I had trouble. I don't know, this is hard to see through this time. This time the color of the ruler is making it difficult because the color of the ruler. Sorry, Chase. I had to move his toes. A lot of art here in the way. I think that's a 1/4 inch. Looks like it. So that's my real cutting line. There's just something about this look. I just love this look. Don't you guys love that? I don't know why. I like it more than this, but I thought I'd show you that you can do like normal art too. You guys not hearing me as well? Attaboy. Where's that line? There it is. What did we do before? We had markers that ironed away, and what was the other thing I was going to say? I can't remember. It must be getting close to 4. I've been getting up real early, getting up at 5, starting the day. How early are you guys getting up lately? I feel like over the last week I've been more energetic and felt like getting up earlier. I think it might also be because it's cool. We've been getting down to 60 degrees. In fact, the temperature is dropping right now, and we've been getting down to going from 89 degrees to 60 degrees in like an hour's time. So I'm making sure I always have a sweater in my car. Okay, so there's the front. Now before I cut, I am going to go around and I'm going to stitch on that line before I actually cut it out, because that way the, well, it'll just be better. It's the right thing to do. Why am I having trouble thinking? Somebody's calling. Okay. So this is going to keep the batting from separating or kind of shifting or puckering when I make this into a pillow-ish shape. And I'm going to use the Satinedge Foot for this, because I can use the Satinedge Foot to ride right on that line. So it'd be good to make sure I have a solid line going all the way. Any other breaks in the line? Because there's so much color, you could get lost. The thunder is still out there, but it sounds like it's further away. Sounds like somebody's bowling and hitting pins. Is it pretty, you guys? I like it. I like the added sequins. I think it makes it nice. Okay, the Satinedge Foot. And back to the sewing machine. I'm going to go ahead and keep this thread on, which is the Invisifill 100-weight thread. I think I remember people saying that. My teacher said that it is the angels are bowling. That's what thunder is. Where's my feet container? No, that's not it. I had like 25 Satinedge feet in my kit, so I decided to always keep my feet in here so that I don't have to dig as much. For those of you who are not familiar with the Satinedge Foot, it is a unique foot to any other foot, as all three of the creative feet are patented. I designed this foot when I was 19 years old for a woman who was born blind. It has this little wire that's connected to the white guide and this assembly that allows you to move that wire within the needle area. This does fit every sewing machine, no matter how new or old, industrial and domestic, including the Viking Husqvarna. For those of you who have been told that you can't use other feet, notice the opening is significantly bigger than the traditional feet. And that is partly why they work on all machines. I'm not going to tell you all the secrets. If you have a Bernina sewing machine, you'll use a Bernina low shank adapter in addition to what's in the package, our shortest shank, and that's the one the FOF will use as well. If you have a 9mm sewing machine, the best adapter is our B adapter. Think B for best adapter. And they just snap on. And then you remove your machine's assembly and put ours on in its place. Not all of the machines will require one of our adapters. Like my machine, and this is the Baby Lock Crescendo. I just used the same assembly that came with the machine. Pretty sure all the Baby Lock machines will just snap it right on. But you don't just screw your assembly on, you must tighten it with a screwdriver. The back end of the applique tweezers is a great screwdriver. This is usually where I keep it, unless I carry it off and use it for other things around the house, which is a bad habit. Now when you put it on, the foot's going to just tip. And that's because it has to carry that screw assembly around. It's quite heavy, and it's going, oh my gosh, this is heavy. So I'm trying to think of how I really want to do this. This is kind of cool. You know, everything about the yarn being attached is neat to me. But I want it to be on the inside, right? We're going to sew right sides together with our fabric that I can ink later. And so if I stitch it in to the seam allowance and it's in here, then it will be on the outside of the inside when I'm done. Correct? I'm pretty sure. You could also do a really neat thing. You could do like a buttonhole, but this will be the easiest and quickest. Although I really like that too. This would be cool sticking out the top. So I'm trying to achieve that in my head and I can't, so. Don't have to do everything you want, Claire, just because you think it. Thank you. I'm glad you said that because there's so many Viking customers that are terrified to use this foot. I guess the dealers really try to scare them. Although before Viking Husqvarna closed and was purchased by the company that currently makes it, we were selling directly to Viking, and they used to order our feet. So if you wanted to sew zippers and pearls and sequins, they would order our feet and send you ours to you, the actual manufacturer of the Viking sewing machine. So we've always fit, and we used to be in the Joann stores because of it. A lot of things have changed over the years. So now I'm using a straight stitch, and I'm going to center my needle so that it's going to hit that line. I'm bringing my needle down with the foot lowered, move the guide over. So I'm going to kind of show you by drawing how you want this. So the foot itself has this opening and then the wires in there. Boy, this pen doesn't want to write. Here's my other one. Yeah, I'll just use this. Okay, so there's the foot's opening, and there's a wire in here. This is where it's attached to your sewing machine, and screw assembly, and the guide comes over like that. So what you want is you want the line that you're going to stitch on. You want to bring the needle down right on it, and then you move the guide over, and the guide sits right next to the needle like that. Ooh, our lights just flickered. So the guide itself is actually covering this. That makes it difficult for you to see that the wire on the foot, when it is on, when the white part of the guide, this is what I mean to say, the white part of the guide is bigger than the guide itself. So the needle sits right there, and the white guide's edge is right in line with the needle. And the wire is actually just there, but the white part of the guide is what you look at, and your needle sits right there. And that is what I'm lining up right now. So I'm bringing the needle down on the stitching line, and then I move the wire over to the needle, and the white part of the guide is now what I watch as I sew, and I'm going to keep it right along the edge of that line. Oh, feed dogs are down. Bring my feed dogs back up. Double check by turning the hand wheel towards you to make sure that you didn't bend the wire on the guide. And now instead of watching the needle go up and down, I watch right here. And all of this is going to be cut away. Oh well. Watching the front, watching the guide, making sure the line is lined up with the guide, ignoring the needle. Come down with your needle down. One more stitch. Lift and turn. I do this on all of my quilts, by the way. Before I bind, before I do anything, I always stitch around the edge. Usually I go a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge on a quilt. This is a different scenario, as what this space is your 1/4 inch seam allowance that you're going to use. My yarn is getting... Okay, so watching right there. It's funny, my drawer just opened again. Watch there. Bring the needle down. Remember, the only thing holding these fabrics together before was static cling. So if you've had batting slip and had to use safety pins, and that's why I use bamboo, one of the reasons. Also, this is more sustainable. Because natural battings, you know, cotton, wool, they will rot away. They will eventually not be in your quilt. It's not a pleasant thing to hear. Yeah, come down. But the bamboo batting, I have something that's like 13 years old. The batting is still in there. I had something I made with cotton batting, and the cotton batting was gone in a 1.5 years. It had dissipated. Just from people handling it at a show. It's pretty upsetting because you can't go in there and add more batting unless you quilt like I'm doing here, where you quilt with the batting with the back not there, and then you add a back and you can stitch your binding on, and then you come back if your back of your quilt wears out or your batting starts to disappear. You can open up the seam going along the outside edge of your quilt and then add another layer of batting and put a new back on. Of course, most of you are going, there's no way I'm ever opening up a quilt that I put binding on. What do you consider an antique Kenmore? Kenmore never really made sewing machines, so they actually are just a brand. And if you're calling it antique, well, that's really... Antique would be, in my opinion, would be more like the featherweight sewing machine that you see there, except for what they say is anything 27 years or older is vintage now. So Sears Sewing Machine Company, when they first started selling sewing machines, were selling the, what's it called? It's been a while. Okay, Our Feet Fit, Janome, New Home, Elna, Kenmore. I have to kind of run through to get to this one brand. Riccar. Yes, they fit Riccar. God, I haven't been to a show in over 1.5 years. I used to be able to roll this out really fast. Our Feet Fit, New Home, Elna, Janome, Kenmore, Riccar. What is that machine? Because I don't normally start with Janome. I can't remember. It would be helpful for you to know the actual make of your machine, because it's not really a Kenmore. And that, I don't know if if this brand is even out anymore. I'll tell you what, I'll look it up and remember at some point, and I'll put it in the school on this particular lesson. And also you can ask me in the comment. I'll put it in the comments below as well for any of you that have an antique Kenmore, so that you know what you actually have. And maybe it'll come to me in a minute. So now I'm going to cut my quilt along that cutting line. Come on, what is it? This is the Caterpillar light tablet, and I do ink using them and cut using these because they actually are light tablets, and it's a very low profile, so you don't have to lift your arm up to use it. and it's very bright. So it's great for applique and so many things. I don't really need the light, but you can see how it actually illuminates that. So if it helps me see the line, even though it doesn't help the camera see the line. It helps me see the line better. Trying to work around the dog who's still scared and by my feet. It's always ideal to stand up and look down through your ruler to get proper perspective when cutting. So a lot of people have trouble cutting and they're like, why don't my pieces or my strips, why aren't they straight or the right size when I'm done cutting? And it has a lot to do with if you're sitting down and you're looking at an angle, you're not seeing the actual line where it really is. So I would recommend always standing up when cutting your strips. And in this case, I really don't want to waste any fabric. I don't want to cut, because I could use that for something in this project. So I'm saying that to myself out loud. See how I inch my hand up as I go? And I'm trying not to go very far here because I want to use that fabric for another part of my pattern. And this is why I like the Ultra, because it's bigger. This is the largest of the Caterpillar light tablets. And this is engineered for the pressure that you're pushing down really hard against this without breaking the light area, which is not glass. And it comes with, or you can get this tempered glass for inking on, and there's ink all over this, which may not show up. I need to clean it. If the lines bother you, you can buy 2 of these and you can take a razor blade and cut all the lines away so you have one that's clear. And that's what I'd recommend if you want to do a lot of inking and having your pattern be beneath it and ink through it. Which I don't know where my pattern went. So once again, I'm standing up, looking down, looking straight down at this so that I cut straight. Move up and then inch my fingers up. This keeps you aware of your fingers, but never look at your fingers while you're cutting. Always look where you're going. You'll be less likely to cut your fingers. You can also move the mat. Slide the mat around so that you're not having your fabric slip or shift on you. I didn't quite go all the way. If you look at your fingers when you're holding the ruler, you might actually drive your blade right to your fingers. Just like when you drive a car, you're not supposed to look at the headlights of the car coming toward you because your brain will want to drive right to that car. I'll do this so you guys can see better with the light off for this one. But see, now I can't tell where the edge of the mat is. So I like to leave the light on when I use it for quilts. And you can use your scissors to finish this off, but if you do, use shears. Don't use little scissors like that. Okay, so why did I take that time to do that? Because now I'm going to take this and I'm going to get rid of the batting. And this is just fabric now. I did stitch into it a little bit. Well, I may just have the inside be bad or have batting. We'll see if I need to. That's right, the book is pretty small. And what I'm trying for is to have a pocket inside to put pins in. This is too much designing on the fly. What do you guys think? Now it's more easy to visualize it as a book. All right, I'm done. See you next week. I am running out of time. The cord on your Caterpillar got damaged. You can contact me and I can get you another one, but you can also use a cell phone cord if you have the smaller machines. The smaller ones are the same as a cell phone. The Ultra has a different kind of cord, but I can order that for you. How did it get damaged? Did you cut through your cord or did you? I don't need to know. I can just imagine slicing through your cord though. We should probably add that to our site. Replacement cords. I'm in love with it. I'm really going to enjoy using this. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking an 1/8 inch seam allowance is going to be better. Probably could have made it bigger. Sometimes I like my work so much I get like misty. I'm like, oh, it turned out really good. Okay. It's fun when you visualize something when it finally is realized that it is what your mind visualized. Does that make sense? So you're using the Ultra, Brenda? Give me a call tomorrow and or send me an email. So I don't remember which one you got, Brenda, but I can look it up for you and we'll make sure you get the right one. And yeah, this is not the right one because I lost mine. And this just happened to work. And you know what this is for? This is for that echo when you go, Alexa. And I'm like, I hope I turned on your Alexas. Did I turn on anyone's Alexa? So this is the cord that powers an Echo, and it works on my Ultra, if you have one. I can't stand those Alexa devices. Too many times they use a word or a name like that in movies, and all of a sudden it would talk and scare the living daylights out of me, so I don't use mine. All right. I was a little mean just now, wasn't I? Okay. So yeah, I need that pocket because I need something for it to go into. Come on, brain. Oh, I know what I should do. Let's see. So this is in essence the pattern now for cutting to make it just lined so it has a back. That's probably enough to hold it. Just gotta think it through. Or make sure you have enough fabric. And I just don't have two of them. One's smaller than the other. I can ink after. All right. I don't like wasting ink. So when I work on an inking project and I have excess fabric, I will usually ink that fabric so that I have that around should I want to use it for something else. And that way I don't have ink that I just let dry up, because you can't get it wet again. Bye, Pearl. I feel like every week you have to leave early. So now I'm going to cut this to size to match. And standing up again to make sure I look down through it. So do you guys move your mat as well instead of picking up your project? I got a bunch of crates of ink here. It's not letting me. So my inks are right here. There we go. I'm getting hungry. Must be past the 2-hour limit. Oh, by the way, I was going to tell you. Remember last week I said you want to ink your fabric and then sew because you don't want to discolor your thread with the ink. Well, I added ink to this after I stitched, and I just tried to stay within it, but I made the coral color darker, and I added more yellow to the yellow and added more green after it was stitched. So you can ink after you stitch. So this is our lining. I'll fold that in half, and I don't want the sleeve to be the full size because it's really hard to get the notebook in if it is. And if you're wondering what fabric this is the Kona fabric. Kona cotton for quilting. I'm sorry if I woke up your devices that have that name. I want it to be 3/4 of it. So if I go like this to kind of visualize, that's about right. Not straight. How far is that? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. So I could just fold it in half and at the 5-inch mark. Five and a quarter, and then I can cut off. Oh, I got to fold under too. So I am going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I do 6 inches, then I can fold it over and do a nice top stitch on there. And we want to have it go into the seam allowance. So we need that 1/4 inch going all the way around. I would cut better if my dog wasn't making me straddle him on the floor. Okay, and now we're like how far? One and a half. It's not very straight. I'll do this side. My squaring off skills leave a lot to be desired. So if we count that, get you to the line. Said 1 and a half. So 1 and a half. I hope I thought it through well. I don't think I did. I did. What I thought I messed up on is I thought I didn't account for the seam allowance on the top and the bottom. And I did because I made it the size to add the seam allowance on this. So it kept me from making that mistake. Good to think things through early. It's 412. Yeah. I could get really a lot more fancy with this, but I'm not because I think the inking is fancy enough. I wanted to sew piping, but my brain is just too tired. And this is fancy, and sometimes you can go too far with it. At least I think so. So this is a cheat that I do sometimes. And I fold if I don't really care about how perfect it is. I fold under and then I use the edge of the table to press it, and it kind of gives it a crease. The presser is the best. And I really should bring the mat up because it gives me the best using the iron combined with the presser. Well, let's see. I have the hard surface. This is when the cutter pillar helps to see that you're doing the same measurement on the top and the bottom. And I'm going to do a 1/2 inch folded under. And a 1/2 inch up here. and then it's kind of like erasing. And to keep it from shifting, use the liquid-based glue. I think, you know, the book going in and coming out again, I think I really should do a double seam allowance here. So I think I'm going to fold it under half. And half here. I wanted to use my red one. This one ended up being really small. I was thinking about coming out with some juvenile sizes. My son will shoot me though. Don't come out with any more sizes. Do any of you have little grandchildren use your pressers, and are they finding that they're a good fit, or should I consider smaller ones? I have a song playing in my head, and I will spare you. So if you're not familiar with the liquid-based glue, this eliminates the need to pin. And it also stabilizes the fabric at the same time because it's water-soluble stabilizer that's wet. So when you use this, it's going to hold that fabric down and also help to prevent it from puckering or spreading out. Or you could use the Satinedge Foot and do a satin stitch. We could have sewed yarn on the edge, and that would have also been a way to secure the fabric. And I need to do that on this one as well. So we'll set this one aside to dry while I do this one. And since I know what I'm doing, this time will be faster. It's a good time to ask questions as I'm coming close to being finished for the day. If you're just coming in now, this is Fabrically Speaking Live. We go live every Thursday at 2 o'clock. And that is Mountain Standard Time. We do not change our clocks, so half of the year we'll be at what time it is now in your area. And once Halloween comes around, our clocks don't change, but yours do. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not using an iron, because I burn my fingers using irons when I do details like that so often. You could use an iron in conjunction or with the liquid-based glue. And this would not be a bad time to use spray starch as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch this pocket using the Satinedge Foot. It's going to help me get my stitching line right along the edge of that. Move the guide away from the needle. The distance the guide and needle are from one another is the edge stitch distance. You will sew from the edge of that. That's awesome. So you're setting the seams for your granddaughter and then she sews it? And as I work with this, sorry, what is that? I'm super close to the foot, so I can't put my finger to the side of the foot, which is generally what I tell you to do. So now I have my fingers close to the foot as I can get, and I'm pushing toward the white guide. And this thumb is just helping it not move away from the foot. So it's a different look to sewing than traditionally. A lot of people sew like this and they move their hands like that. I didn't glue that straight. It's only going to be visible by me. There we go. And you can see how perfect that stitch is. This makes technical sewing on like dress shirts, around collars and sleeves so precise. We have had several people win prizes. I had this one gentleman come up to me at a show and he said he won the blue ribbon for technical sewing using our Satinedge Foot to do all of the stitching. And I have a technique for doing felled seams on the sleeves so that you don't have to cut your fabric, and setting in the sleeve is so precise. It's beautiful. I'll probably have to show you that at some point in time because I know a lot of you like garment sewing. So I'll repeat that. Now sometimes the garment or what you're sewing is so big you can't bring it in from that side. So I'm going to show you how you can use both sides of the guide. So in this case, I'm going to move the guide so that it's to the left of the needle. And I'm not going to guess at it. I'm going to take and place my needle once again when you use it for edge stitching, top stitching, or pin tucking. And this does give you a true pin tuck, by the way. The kind you see on something from France, not the twin needle pin tuck that you get when you do faux pin tucks doing heirloom sewing. This is the true pin tuck technique. Okay, so then we just put our finger right here, and the foot's going to feel this edge on the inside of the guide. And because the wire on the foot is positioned equally in the middle of the white part of the guide here, it gives you accuracy just by pushing your finger toward it. Notice my other hand over here is not involved in the sewing at all. So it's much healthier for you. And the main reason I use plastic is because it doesn't spread the fabric. It doesn't cause puckers. Isn't that beautiful? Ta-da! Okay, so we have our big piece, which is going to be right here, and we got to insert this into it. We don't want this to get caught. I have to think this through because we have this one and then we have our pockets, and the pockets have to get in there. So should I put the pocket in now, or should I do this first and then apply the pocket? You could do it all at once with the glue, but my brain is tired, so I'm going to do it in 2 steps. It's always better to be nice to ourselves. There is the first knot, and I'm trying to keep the first knot inside on that seam allowance. There we go. And this time I'm going to use clips. Make sure that doesn't move. It kind of reminds me of making the bowl cozies. Oh, Tinkerbell just woke up Chase. We have puppy drama at my feet. The thunder stopped. You're safe now. You can go run around. It's okay. It's no longer a danger. We're going to have to turn this right side out, so we want to plan ahead and make sure that you think about it. Where we got, that's the front of the book. This is the back of the book. So I'm going to have it be on the back side of the book, and I'm not going to sew in between those spots. Even though I set this up for 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to use an 1/8 inch instead, because I felt like it was going to be too tight. And this foot helps me to sew that accurate 1/4 inch, or 1/8 inch, just like you saw me do the 1/16 inch distance away from the edge of this. And what was I going to say? Why'd I bring it up? I'm sure I'll remember why I brought it up. This would normally be really difficult. In fact, a lot of patterns call for, if you're going to do an 1/8 inch seam allowance, to do a 1/4 inch first and then cut afterward. So I'm not going to have to cut afterward. It would be really a good idea to glue this all the way around, except for where you have that pocket. Because it's an 1/8 inch seam allowance, if you're not using my foot, I would definitely recommend that. Or pinning more often. But remember, it is never okay to sew over a pin, no matter what you've been told. I'm a sewing machine mechanic, and so when your sewing machine hits a pin, even if it finds its way around it, it dislodges it. It makes it not come down with the hook on the sewing machine, and it can cause damage to your sewing machine. It's not worth the risk to sew over a pin. If you're unsure if you're going to do an accurate job, it's better to use a longer stitch length, especially on something that you're going to turn right side out, because it's unlikely for it to ever come out unless you're stuffing it like a pillow. Since this will not be stuffed, I'm safe with not having to worry about my seam allowance breaking. So I'm going to use a longer stitch length because it's easier to rip it out if I need to. So I'm going all the way to a 4mm length. And I'm closer than 1/8 of an inch. I'm at 1/16 of an inch, which is even too close for Clare. And I am going to go back right here. Another way to make a stitch easy to remove would be to lower the thread tension down to a 0. But in this case, I know that I'm going to be accurate. I'm going to take my time and ensure it. Notice that my hand positioning is to the side of the foot, that I don't allow my hand to drift like a lot of people do when they sew. And that is because when you push toward the foot pushes the fabric back because it has a guide that goes all the way through the sewing process. If you push toward the foot, it pushes back and you'll be sewing straight. If you put your hand in front or behind, it bounces off the foot. And I stop and start, stop and start. I'm not constantly sewing a long stretch of fabric. Sew an inch, sew an inch. So a lot of start and stop. And because we're going so close on this seam allowance, we're not going to have to cut our corner. Bring the needle down. Now I'm too far, so I'm going to come back. I'm not doing any shows in 2021. And here we go. I get asked a lot about my shows, and I don't really want to do them anymore, to be honest with you, at all. Definitely not the way I was doing shows, which was in a booth and just demonstrating all day. If I do a show, I'll probably do my own. And that will involve you guys being in the chair and you at a sewing machine and me walking around as a teacher. Shows keep asking me to attend, and I have no intention for 2021. We're developing the school and my art site, so there's too much going on for us to travel. Oh no, I pulled it out. It got stuck. Oh boy. It's kind of good that I inked one half different than the other, because now I can tell where the halfway point is. Now I'm going to come up on this yarn and I'm going to increase my stitch length to 5. And I'm holding down on both sides. Lift. Lift and move it. Lift, lower and move it. If you don't lower it, you don't have thread tension. That's one way of getting over a hump. I got lots of methods. If you watch my show, you'll see me show several different methods of getting over thick areas like that. I'm just getting super hungry. I didn't eat enough today to go much longer. Using the liquid-based glue eliminates the chances of having one fabric creep further than the other. There we go. I did travel for 32 years, and I'm really enjoying being home, you guys. And even before COVID, my plan was to stop doing shows. If you watch my vlog, you'll see I announced it in 2019, I think. Shows were getting really, really lightly attended, and it costs way too much money to go to a show and not have you guys there. I'm going to stop talking about that because I know it's not exciting for those of you who want me to go to a show. Now I'm going to turn this right side out. So sorry I'm not going to shows, you guys. But you see me every Thursday live, and you have the ability to ask me questions. And we have the free online school, where we are going to do the kind of classes that you can be on the screen and talk. I mean, I've already done some, by the way. So when I turn something right side out, I usually grab the furthest away corner first. And I get my thumb in that corner and then bring that thumb back out, and then I start pulling it out. That's also how I turn a pillowcase inside out. And I like to use my presser because my fingers are not as strong as the presser for pulling and negotiating the fabric inside out, or right side out. Pull that out. Yeah, the Prescott Resort is a casino here in Prescott. And I'd already figured out that's where I'm going to do a retreat. And you have 24 hours access to the classroom. So if you don't sleep in the middle of the night and you want to sew, you guys will have access with keys to the room, and they have ways of making it safe so that it's who entered the room. So if something disappears, We know who to blame. Not that any of you would do that. And so just know that is coming. That is how I'll be reaching out to you guys. I didn't realize how far away from the camera I was. So now I got to get that out, and the presser. Where's my opening? There it is. Presser helps you get your points without damaging your fabric. And because I used 1/8 inch seam allowance, did I get to that one? I have to redo that. I didn't go far enough. This is why you glue. If you glue first, you won't have that ever happen. So I'm going to take it back to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to restitch that corner. And I'm not pulling it all back in because we don't need to. Back up. Definitely liquid-based glue stops you from having to do these kind of things. Sorry about the microphone. I have to move the microphone around for different things. Lavalier mics don't work for me. Now I'm coming down to the next one. What a cool book cover. I totally needed to do it the other way. Are any of you going, she's going to realize in a minute that she should have put those pockets in because now it's not in the seam allowance. Whoops. All right, I want to test something. Where's the book? I can't find my book. I haven't gotten up. I haven't left the room. I put it in a drawer. These are the kind of mistakes I make when I get hungry. Any of you see the book? I don't know. Chase, are you laying on the book? He's laying on his belly. He might be laying on top of the book. Hey, boy. Hey, boy. Hey, go. No, you don't have it. Why don't you guys go? Go outside. Come here, Tink. Well, she's sitting here just... They're starting to bug me. They do this. They gang up on me. Where did I put it? Tinkerbell says hello, and she would like her mommy to stop. Go on. It's the yarn. It's the yarn that has long fuzzies. I probably put it in one of my drawers here. If not, I have another. I have like a few of them. But this is just like so weird. I feel like I just had it. Didn't I just have it? All right, well, this is why my son made it so I could do this. Maybe I could get the fuzz off my face. I'll be right back, you guys. I might have a great cheat for this. Oh, I was sitting on it, you guys. I have no idea. I didn't feel that at all. I could not tell that I was sitting on the book. But I have another one, see? Same size. All right, let's see what we got here. I can't believe I was sitting on it. I was thinking maybe if I did a... Nope, got to open it up. But remember what I did? I used a really long stitch length. So now I can just open it up. I'm hungry. You shouldn't do this. You should use a seam ripper. This is where I sewed that corner twice. I also don't have to open the whole thing. Oh, if I only had a brain. I'm definitely using the liquid based. Well, that was one of my most embarrassing moments on my show. I honestly don't remember getting up to sit on the book in the first place. What am I looking for? The glue. Where is that? Right here. Oh, I need someone in here to help me now. I need to eat, you guys. I think I forgot to eat lunch. Yeah, I ate a late breakfast. I ate at 11. It's all right. I'm not gonna rip out where the yarn is. I had this little voice in my head go, no, Claire, you need to do the pockets at the same time. And I ignored it. That little voice in your head that keeps you from making mistakes. Gotta listen to them. What are you guys talking about? You were thinking it. I told you guys to boss me around. Never be afraid to go, I don't think that's going to work. I could lie and say, I did this on purpose so you could see how to get out of a mistake. There, so the yarn is still in place. I don't mind if you guys keep me from making mistakes. Boy, this yarn is like all over that fabric. It's no wonder I've been feeling it, not being able to grab it. It's ultra fine. So know that I have to sew this differently. But what I want to do is get the pockets lined up dots, slide your finger across, and line it up precisely. And what I'm doing by doing this is making these fabrics one piece, less to think about. Much better when you're not nourished enough to think things through. The brain's definitely affected with problem solving. And see, this piece is a little bit bigger to allow for the cover to go in there. And that's accomplished by me positioning it with the glue that way, because I didn't cut it that way, but I'm going to use that seam allowance is so small. Boy, that yarn is everywhere. How did I do that? I might regret that yarn being in this. So if you have a yarn that acts like that, hairspray will make it stay together. A little too late for the hairspray right now, but I'm probably going to spray it after it's done to keep it from coming apart. Can you see that? Yeah, you can. Look at that. And it's so fine. It's so fine. There's a song with that in it, isn't there? Wow. If it isn't the bamboo batting, it's the fuzzy yarn. How did I do that? Yuck. I think the yarn is really interfering in this whole process. All right. I'm cutting that short. I don't want that one anymore. Okay, get it back in there and right sides together, and I will do that again. Ah, my goodness. There's a whole bunch of it right there. See that? This is when I wish I had my lint roller handy. And it doesn't want to let go of me. I'm not making you want knobby yarn, am I? Just a little mist of hairspray. Keep it together. All right, I'm going to go a little bit further apart. So a few stitches forward. Where is it? And back. This is right where that pocket overlaps. Okay, so I'm going to show you another way of getting over a bump, since I'm doing it twice. You can also use a pack of needles. Lower your needle. This is just the little bit of the felled seam. So you don't have to use needles, you can use fabric as well. That's the same thickness, which would be ideal. But then it pops out the back and lets you come back down. If you can handle the needles flying away from you. Always make sure you bring your needle down first before putting the pack of needles under the foot. So that's where I got to bring it up and move it back one stitch. That's what happened on that corner that time. Of course, I have the microphone in my way. There we go. This is also not a good idea to have fabric shredding because it can get caught on the guide as you sew. Do what I say, not what I do. Needle down. Another long pause of quiet. Not like me to be quiet. Oh, I'm almost there, so I better back up. No, I'm not there. It's just because I didn't unstitch that I thought I was done. I was like, wow, I thought I had a longer distance to go, and I did. Where'd those needles go? Wow, they really jumped away. Needle down, lift, level off the foot, put the needles in there. If you bring the needle down first, you won't stitch over or try to stitch through those needles. And if you put your finger back here, it won't shoot across the room at you. And that way, if you need to put it in again because the distance is further, then there you go. Needle down. I have the yarn was catching. Oh my God. That yarn it's right in front of my eyes and blowing around like, oh my goodness. Note to self, never use that yarn again without hairspraying it first. Oh, it is? What? Oh. Okay, I got rid of the be right back. So the next time I go on the top, it won't be there. I want a shower to get this yarn off of me. Quit complaining, Claire. Okay. Always cut your fuzzy stuff off. Here we go. I just didn't want to make you wait while I glued. This is a night when I feel like someone else should cook for me. But I don't think I'm going to be able to handle this yarn on me and go out somewhere. What's going on? Kneel down. Hello, you guys. Talk to me. Give me a question. Something to distract me. I'm at the point where I'm going to turn it right side out again. It's hard for you to question my methods because my methods are bizarre, right? Different than what you guys may have been taught. It's okay, but I don't mind if you question me. That's why there's a chat. Conquering Mount Scrapmore, welcome back. Today's lesson is a notebook cover. It was supposed to just be sewing it, but I have a hard time not giving you guys more, so I did some quilting as well. And the inking part was last week. It's almost done, you guys. And the inside is boring, but I can ink it. Because you don't have to ink before you sew. You can sew and ink after. You can buy a garment already made in the store and ink it. Oh, I thought I messed up. I was like, not another mistake. I really thought that through. I had the pocket like this. And I was like, oh no, I did it wrong. Come on, corner. Come out, corner. Where's the inside? Here it is. Got to get to that corner. This is my Thursday evening. What should I eat? What are you guys having for dinner? Or did you already have? Sometimes you actually influence where I eat. Come on. Oh, I didn't push that out. This is one time that I definitely use the edge of the table to start this press. Get that corner a little better. So you grab it like that and you rub against the edge of the table. Like this. And it works really well for getting the two fabrics to fold up so that they're lined up with each other. Do any of you do that? Because I'm going to go all the way around and do a top stitch. But before I do, I'm going to make sure it fits. Because if I go around with a top stitch and then it's too small, I'm going to be upset with myself. Oh, that's the back of the book though. Fuzzies! Ah! Okay, put it in right. It's the front of the book. No, it's not. This is... I don't know. I'm not going to do that. So I'm not going to do a top stitch all the way around because I don't have enough room. So this would be a time when I would use my invisible thread and use the Satinedge Foot and the invisible applique instructions to hand sew this gap up. So I'm pressing. And I'm going to use the glue again. You're going to have a salad for dinner? That sounds good. I have all these salad makings. It's just so tired. I need to do my food prep. Ooh, I have an artichoke. I think I'll use have an artichoke. So this is the back. Okay. Okay, finally pressed. Oh, it's over here. So I'm trying to fold this in really close to the edge because the seam allowance going all the way around is really close to the edge. Just holding it there for a second. Uh-oh. Didn't pull this one out. All right. I don't know. I think I might be able to do a really close seam allowance or edge stitch. See, I didn't pull that corner out. Got tweezers. Definitely pays to put things back where you should every time. See, I wanted to put yarn around the edge, but now it's like, I don't want to touch that yarn ever again. All right, so here we go. The invisible applique technique is a zigzag stitch. I'm just going to use a straight stitch because I'm too tired. So I'm just going to do a top stitch to close this up and have the stitch be really close. However, I could put a trim around the outside of this and that would cover up that, close it up. And so give yourself like a 1/2 inch extra around a book. knowing that the top is the most important. Oh, I didn't lengthen my stitch length. Lengthen your stitch length when you get to the thick areas also, to get up and over an area. And then as you start heading down the hill, shorten it back down again. This is really pushing it on an 80-12 needle, which is what I have in the machine. Oh my God, I'm not showing you. I'm so sorry, you guys. I pushed the wrong button. You've been missing it. And I had no idea. Because I can't hear you talk. None of you are even there anymore. So just going around. And don't feel bad if you guys want to bail on me. There we go. Come into the corner. And finishing it off with a, yeah, Tina, thank you. I just am that tired that I didn't look at what I'm doing. Sorry. So I'm pushing toward the foot, not pushing the fabric through. No complaining. It's your fault you have a show that lasts longer than 2 hours. I don't know how I ever did that 6-hour session. I had food, that's how I did it. So this line of ink is going to be erased with the iron, and I will finish it up with the iron. Where's the scissors? No more of that. I think I'm going to do this too. This is not permanent, but this will stop it from doing what it's doing. Till I can put some nail polish on the end of that. Something that will hold permanently. There. Definitely pays to use a bead at the end. Sometimes I just lift, move for one stitch, and bring it back down. Thank you, Amy. That's because no one was saying anything. I was looking at the comments instead of the screen that shows what I'm doing, which keeps me from doing something like that. There's just so much to look at and be aware of. I want this to be in, and that'll keep that from popping out. Definitely give yourself a 1/2 inch, then you shouldn't struggle like I am right now trying to keep this at just a 1/16 inch distance. A little fussnickety there. We're gonna run around the yarn. Pressing as I go to make sure that I'm not making the book's cover smaller by not having it lined up very well. Oh yeah, lengthen your stitch length on those. This is quite a job for this 8012 super universal needle. It's proving to be super duper. Tweezers, where are you? The goal is to have the folds lined up with each other. Same thing we try to do when we make a bowl cozy. If you don't know, I have a video on bowl cozies. I do. I also talk about the science of them, and that cotton is not the best option for your batting and your fabric. In fact, cotton is the most flammable of all fabrics. I'm not saying you can't use cotton though. I'm going to rip this out off screen and sew it again. So I'm going to stop here. I'm not putting you through that weight. Here we go. Every week I start out clean and end up a mess. So you really could switch it out and have this be the front one day, or get tired of it, you switch it around. Did I sew it in the wrong way? I did. I sewed it on the wrong side. So it's the bottom instead of the top. I guess it works both ways. I don't know how I did that. Okay. How do we do that? This book is really... There we go. So better to not have it 3/4 of, I think. Maybe halfway across. This book is struggling to get in there. This is what live is all about. Can't edit out the oopsies. So instead of it being on the top, it's on the bottom. It still does the same thing. Still marks a spot. What do you think, you guys? Once you get the hang of it, it's not going to take 2 weeks of learning, you know, and then you could do a whole bunch of these. And I think they, you know, depending on what the book is, if you're going to do a Bible cover, you could make it a religious Bible cover. And I just can't believe I got the yarn on the wrong side. But I love it. I'm going to use it. It's my doodle book cover. And fabric tends to stretch a little bit, so it's not lifting up too much. Not too bad. Ooh, you could even do like a little buttonhole and have a loop and have a spot for your pen. Maybe there'll be another pattern coming in the future. It's been a while since I made anything like this. It's been close to 30 years since I made anything like this for a book cover, so my brain had a really hard time working it through. Be kind of fun for a little photo album. All right, and it looks like not very many of you are still with me. I'm going to scroll back, see if there's any questions I didn't catch. All right, I don't see any questions. Lorinda, you like it? Thank you. I like it. I had so much fun doing this, you guys. And so if you're in the mood for that, now it's on the top. Thinking through the front of a book it can get confusing. So there is one version and there's another version. And isn't that kind of fun to have two options? So you guys, I will see you in the school, or I will see you next Thursday. Thanks for joining me. If you're new to my channel and you like what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button. And those of you who are still hanging on and lurking in the background, the like button shows up once the live ends. The chat goes away and then you'll find the like button out there. That's the one that helps us with the algorithm for YouTube. And if you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I sure hope you'll do so today. And I will see you next Thursday. Bye. Love you. Mwah.